Alô, malta da Luso Delphi. Muito bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite. Não sei a hora que vocês estão a ver. Alô, meu amigo João, como é que estamos aí, meu amigo?
Tudo bem, Jorge, por aqui um bocadinho de chuva, o sol hoje está tímido, mas de resto tudo na paz, tudo muito bom por aqui. Alô, delfineiros e delfineiras, radizeiros e radizeiras, como diria o nosso amigo lá do Brasil. E bora lá, mais um podcast da nossa série, bora lá conhecer mais uma pessoa importante na comunidade.
É isso aí, mais um Papo Dev com Portinho. Eu espero que todo mundo aí esteja acompanhando nosso programa. Não esqueça, gente, deixa o seu gosto, deixa o seu like, subscreva o nosso canal, compartilhe os nossos vídeos. Se vocês estão a gostar desses papos que nós estamos a fazer, entre em contato com todo mundo, manda o link do nosso vídeo, que eu acho que vai ser sempre uma mais-valia para todo mundo, conhecer a experiência das pessoas que têm vindo cá. Nós estamos sempre a chamar pessoas da comunidade Delphi, da comunidade Rádio Estúdio, da comunidade Embarcadero, para falar com todo mundo aí as experiências dele, não só a parte técnica, ensinando técnicas e tudo mais, mas mostrando também a experiência profissional de cada um, inspirando as pessoas que estão a entrar e que já estão também no mercado de tecnologia, de desenvolvimento de software. Eu acho que é um trabalho que só tem aí a acrescentar a quem está vendo, não é, João?
Exatamente. E quando a gente pede para darem like, não é só para termos muitos likes, é porque o like ajuda o YouTube a perceber que realmente o vídeo tem importância para as pessoas e que convém divulgar o canal, torná-lo mais apelativo e dar mais visibilidade. E quanto mais visibilidade o canal tiver, mais conhecimento a gente pode partilhar com todo mundo cá e lá fora também, não é? Porque isto não é só visto cá dentro. Lá fora tem muita gente que também nos veja. Pessoal, bora lá.
Com certeza, com certeza. Hoje estamos trazendo aí uma pessoa da comunidade. Ele trabalha na Embacadero já há mais de 3 anos. É uma pessoa muito bacana. Já conversei com ele pessoalmente cá no Porto, num evento que tivemos aqui no Porto, acho que há uns 2 anos atrás. Ele é consultor da Embarcadero, já trabalha aí com tecnologia há mais de 15 anos. É, ele trabalha hoje na Embarcadero na Inglaterra, mas ele originalmente ele é espanhol, né, da Espanha.
Nuestro
E
hermano.
nosso irmão, exatamente. E ele é o nosso queridíssimo Antônio Zapater.
Antonio,
Adentre-se, meu
please
querido.
introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Absolute pleasure for being here. I do apologize for not speaking in Portuguese,
No
even
problem.
though, as you just said, that I'm from Spain, but my Portuguese is, my level is not for a podcast.
Don't worry, your English is better than ours.
Yes.
Well,
Thank
I've been
you
living.
so.
No, sorry,
Sorry. Thank you so much. You accepted our invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. And please introduce yourself for our subscribers, Antonio.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I do love to be in every podcast or video cast or whatever you want to call it that I'm invited to. I do love to have a chat with the community. And about myself, well, as you just said, my name is Antonio Zapater, and I'm based in the UK. I work for Embacadero UK, but I'm originally from Spain, but I moved here like 10 years ago. I'm a pre-sale. Well, my technical role in Embarcadero is pre-sales consultant engineer, which is quite long. The translation of that position is I'm helping customers that they don't know how to use our tools, or they're struggling to understand maybe some of our new features or stuff like that. So helping them through consultancy. But at the same time as well, one of my roles is understanding all our products to the very, very specific technical details, and also create documentation or any type of demos that could help developers understand these new features. among multiple other things I do really, but they're a bit more boring than this. Yeah, as you said as well, I've been working for Embarcadero. We're heading for 4 years already, but technology-wise, I have many years, more than 15 since I've been programming and been related to technology, even though I've been playing around with computers for almost my whole life. But yeah, that would be pretty much a nice introduction for myself.
Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Antonio, we always put this question to our guests. How did you catch the bug? How did you get to technology, to programming, and more specific, how did you get into Delphi? Can you tell us?
Well, related to technology, I've been since I have memories, because my oldest brother, he's 10 years older than me. I remember he was 14 because he's also working in IT and he's a programmer as well. But because he's 10 years older than me, since I was very little, I remember having computers at home. And I also got very interested. And I remember when I was like 7 to 8 years old, I was already on an MS-DOS computer typing commands to run video games and stuff like that. So it felt quite natural for me, because also it was something that it really interested me. So as soon as I finished high school, I went to university and did as well programming. So I learned well, specifically more like how to develop software. And once I finished my studies, I started working in a company. I remember I studied in school Java, C, stuff like that. So I wasn't familiar with Delphi, ironically. But the first company I started working for, they had a piece of software that was developed with Delphi. And it was very easy for me to get the gist of it and how it worked and how the language, how easy and understandable it was compared to Java mostly. So yeah, that's what literally I learned Delphi by accident, by a very good accident, because otherwise nowadays I wouldn't be here. But yeah, since then I specialized on Delphi, and although I've worked with multiple other technologies, I also have a strong web development background, because I mean, nowadays you need to know more than one language, really. But yeah, Delphi, it was a lucky accident, really. And since then.
Antonio, let me ask you something related to Delphi. Today we have a lot of language coming and going. Some languages are here for more than 20 years, and others have been for 5 years and then completely disappear. What make Delphi so robust? Can you explain why do you keep programming in Delphi?
There is this sentiment from a lot of developers, because I have a lot of calls with customers and potential customers, and mostly when it's quite typical to bump into CFO, for example, CTO, that they're not familiar with Delphi, and they automatically associate Delphi with like an old language. And then you have Delphi developers within the same company that they say, no, it's not old, blah, blah, blah. But my argument is always the same one, saying Delphi is even newer than Python from an origin perspective. And what it makes it as robust is that we do value in Embacadero our customers' source code. We see it as an investment that you do. Our customers put a lot of effort and a lot of time and resources and money in creating software, and And that's our primary goal, to keep that code relevant. I know that Marco and other PMs, they put a lot of effort to make things as retro-compatible as possible, because we don't like breaking changes. Some people could disagree with this approach, because sometimes you need to break things to improve other areas. But we do believe that there are ways of creating new features without fully breaking the old ones. I usually put an example of what Microsoft did with .NET when they moved from .NET 4.0, I think it was, to .NET 5. Also, they named it Core, I think. And that was like a completely change in the language, like completely. Your applications would never be compatible between version 4 and version 5. You had to rewrite them from scratch. That's something that I think is it sends an awful message to your customers saying we don't care about what you do. And what it makes Delphi and Browser Studio in general less robust is that when we introduce a breaking change, is because we have no other way of doing it if we want to carry on improving the product. That's why a lot of customers that are in versions like Delphi 7, Delphi 6, even Delphi 5, I'm not going to say that it's a matter of opening the project in the latest version and compile it straight away, because there are going to be multiple areas to look into. But I see almost on a daily basis customers that achieve migrating code from 20 years ago to the latest version. That's something that is absolutely impossible to do with other languages. I think that's our cornerstone main feature, the how much we value your code and your product, because at the end of the day, it's how you make money, and that's how we make money ourselves. So it's a win-win relationship, and that's why I do believe that Delphi is one of the languages that, when other people say legacy, I like to say mature.
I agree.
I agree too. Yeah.
It's not been old. It's been robust. It's been production proven. Our applications have deployed in hundreds of thousands of places, and they've run successfully secretly, because a lot of companies don't even say that they're using Delphi. I could say a bunch of companies that are extremely popular that are using Delphi on a daily basis, and they're running their businesses using Delphi applications. But it's okay. It's silently successful, as we like to say.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
I like to say that Delphi is like a good Porto.
Yeah.
Old, strong, and mature.
Yeah. Can I? Okay. Antonio, you are best known as the creator or maintainer of WebStencil, right?
No.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, explain that for us.
No. I'm not going to take credit for the creation of WebStencils. That is actually, I'm glad you asked that, because this is a very common misunderstanding when it comes to WebStencils. The thing is, I've become this public image of WebStencils within Embacadero, and the whole community thinks that I'm the WebStencils guy, which I am, because I'm the one creating the documentation, creating the demos, making a bunch of webinars about it. But I'm not the only creator of WebStencils. WebStencils was originally created by Marco Cantu. He created not the final version, but he had this proof of concept that he started many years ago, because he also thought that Delphi would benefit from something that could be used for easy web development. So there was to a point where we thought that it was the good moment to release something web related, and we were analyzing multiple options, and then Marco brought on the table saying, "Hey, I have this it's not this concept I started working on is not finished, but maybe something we could look into. So the dev team, our engineers started to analyze in the code, trying to see if it was the right path or not. They did a few proof of concepts. And that's where my name comes in, because I was also involved in that process of, because as I mentioned earlier, I had also a web background. So I started suggesting changes. I also worked a bit on the code very, very slightly. And once we decided, okay, this is good enough, we're going to launch it on 12.2. That was months before the launch of 12.2. And then is when I realized we need good documentation for this, because you can have a great library but if you don't document it, no one will use it. So that's where I started writing the book, our official WebStencils guide, and I started creating a bunch of demos and examples. Because I think there are two types of developers: developers that prefer to get a guide and read through it, and some others that they prefer complex demo and analyze the code themselves. So I try to have both options. And from there, because I was the only or one of the most vocal when it comes to WebStencils internally, for some reason people thought that I was the developer, but I'm not. This is a team effort, and I'm only taking advantage of the work of others.
Okay, yes, I do. So Antonio, how do you see AI impacting the future of software development? And do you use any AI tool to help you with your work?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I think it's one of this with AI is such a tricky topic. If someone tells you what AI will do in 5 years time or 10 years time, in my opinion, they're lying. They probably have some interests behind them to push some AI solution. We have an example where, for example, when the internet kicked off back in the 2000s, there were a lot of people saying the internet will do this and will do that. And for example, no one could guess what will happen with social media or other tools. So AI, I use it. Of course, I use it. It's a great tool if you know how to use it. It's like any other tools. People that are against the use of AI, I would recommend them to learn how to use it and surgically use it in specific areas. There is a big concern when it comes to intellectual property as well. A lot of our customers are not allowed to use AI, full stop, because of the software. Let's say you have a government policy that doesn't allow for you to send your code to the cloud somewhere.
Yes, of course.
Excuse me. So, but using AI as such, I see it as a great tool. It's like a auto-completion 2.0. What happened when the first auto-completion was invented? All of a sudden, we didn't have to go constantly to the documentation and check the name of the method. We only had to press dot, and then this little window popped up, and we could see all the information. That was a revolution. Of course, it's not comparable to AI because it's much broader, the repercussion. But I see it as a tool, as it is nowadays. There are multiple cases where AI has been a big fail when it comes to fully replacing humans. I was reading a white paper the other day where they said that 95% of projects that relied 100% on AI without human supervision failed. So that's 95% is a big percentage. It's true that it succeeded in 5%, but as the technology is nowadays, I don't fully see it completely replacing humans yet. I don't know what will happen in 10 years' time, 15 or even 5, I don't know. But nowadays, I would say it would be dumb to don't use AI in your daily work. It's like saying, I prefer still riding a horse when I could buy a car. It's an obvious choice. Choose the car. You're gonna get faster. It's gonna be cheaper. It's gonna be more optimized. With AI, happens the same thing, but exactly as happens with cars. You need to know how to drive a car. You cannot go from riding a horse to drive a car straight away. You need to pass a test. You need to know how things work. Is because a lot of people think with AI it's just a matter of typing what you want and then you end up with exactly what you asked for, and that's not true. You need to understand how LLMs work, how you can request things in a specific way. Let me drink some water, please.
Yes. No problem.
So yeah, I'm not one of these that are fully against AI. Not at all. And for the next question, that probably will be, what are we going to do from Embacadero when it comes to AI? Because I get this question a lot. Because a lot of people think that we're ignoring this space. And okay, I'm not allowed to talk about anything. But the only thing I can say is like we are very aware. It's not like we're being dumb about the topic and we're ignoring it, but it's a space that is moving that fast that we need to move fast as well, and sometimes that's tricky, but it's definitely something we're looking into, and hopefully we will have more news about this sooner than later. I think that's okay for me to say it.
Okay.
Nice.
Good.
Antonio, one of the things that I debate most with people in the area is that I often listen. I can subscribe a good AI plan and dispense 2 or 3 engineers and have the same work done faster, better. Still don't believe that we are in that kind of level already. Do you see any danger right now for the programming community, for the developers, engineers? Can you give your insight, please?
Yes. This is a tricky one, because it's true that if you have engineers that know how to use AI, they can do the same amount of work. For, let's say, 3 engineers will be able to do the same amount of work as 6 or 8 or 10 would do. That's a fact. When you use AI, you can develop much faster. So when it comes to the company, they have to make the decision of what do we want to do. Do we want to develop at the same pace we were developing before, with less developers, so we're saving money? Or do we want to keep the same amount of developers and create more software and create more value for our product? Because now we have 10 developers that they're equivalent of 30, let's say. So that's not my decision. That's, of course, a company decision. This is also way more complex than because the markets and stuff like that probably if a company, the first approach for a company usually is saving money or making more money. So the first approach is let's fire a bunch of developers and carry on with the same pace of development. But then other companies, maybe in the future, they decide to start releasing more software and more better products. And then the other companies had to start hiring more developers to keep up with the competitors. It's a very uncertain territory we're at the moment. Also, the bit that is really concerning to me is that the first developers that are starting to not being hired are junior developers. At the moment, what companies want are senior developers, because they don't write code as such, or not as much code as before, but they understand the code, so they can decide if the code is okay or not to merge in the main project. And juniors don't have that capability yet because they need to learn to be good developers. So if at the moment we don't start training junior developers as senior developers, I don't know what will happen in 10 years' time if AI doesn't manage to fully replace humans, because we will be in a market where seniors will start to retire and we don't have new juniors to replace them. As I said, I don't have a magic ball to say yes, this is what's going to happen. It's very uncertain, and yeah, it's tricky. My personal opinion, if you ask me, I don't think that AI, with the current technology as it is, with how internally LLMs work, I don't think they will fully replace humans.
Oh yes, of course.
Thanks, God.
But the other side is that point I was making is like, I don't know what companies will decide to do with this new technology, because it's like industrial revolution. It's like agriculture. When new tools were developed, you didn't need hundreds of people working on a field. 5 people could do the same amount of work with the new tools that were invented. That also helped to have way more crops and have way more food than never before. But it's true that some jobs were lost. And what I'm fairly sure that in a few years' time, programming as such, so typing code, is not going to be as important as it was 5 years ago. That's a fact, at least if you ask me.
Yeah. It's funny because yesterday when we were making the episode with Marco Cantu, one thing
Yes,
that he said,
I remember that.
Yeah, one thing that he said, and I keep thinking about, is that today it's cheap to use AI. But
That's a very good point.
The companies that make AI, they need a lot of money in the future, and it's not going to be that cheap, and we are going to pay a lot of money to keep using it. Do you have that feeling also?
Yes. At the moment, AI companies are in a stage of growing, and they need to make customers, and they need to get everyone hooked on the services to make them irreplaceable. So to have the feeling that you can't carry on working if you don't use them. Once you get that critical mass, then you're going to start increasing prices. We've seen this in multiple occasions. It's a model that has been used by a lot of companies. We've seen it, for example, with cloud providers. I remember 10 or 15 years ago when AWS or Azure and all these started, they were very cheap. Like, it was like the logical option. Why don't you go cloud? It's way cheaper than running your own infrastructure. But prices kept ramping up, and now it has become the standard. But it's running in cloud is very, very expensive. Not very, very expensive, but it's quite expensive compared to how it started. It's something that also Uber or Amazon do. Once they get into a market, they drop prices to get rid of the competition. And then once they're, not only them, but they have removed a big chunk of the competition, then they start ramping prices. But at first, once they are in the growing stage, they're on a loss. They're losing money, literally. And that's what's happening with AI at the moment. There is not a single big company that is making a profit with AI.
Not one? Okay.
No. As far as I know, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, they are all losing money.
So right now they are only focused on getting the users to their
exactly.
site. Is that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So they will start. We saw a few weeks ago that Anthropic has shrunk the amount of tokens you can use with your paid subscription. like dramatically, almost to half. So you get, for the same price you were paying a month ago, then you get half the amount of tokens. The price is the same. That's called shrinkflation. So you pay the same, but you get less.
Yeah.
So, and investors that are pouring billions in these companies, they're not investing all that money just because they believe in the technology, which they do as well. But they're doing it because they want the return. And at some point,
that's the point.
All these companies are gonna say, "Okay, I gave you all these billions. Where is my profit now?" And that's why things are gonna get interesting, because it's true that they're starting to create a habit, and that's the whole point. And once you have this, or all the companies that are starting to use AI for development, and they restructure the organization based on these AI tools, is when things are going to get interesting, because once they start rising the price, maybe it's not as profitable anymore as use AI to replace 3 developers for 1. It's a very good point. I fully agree with Marco. I think this year we're going to start seeing this kind of moves from probably not a massive bump in prices, but we're starting to see movements in that area, because investors are starting to get nervous for all the money they have been pouring in these companies, and they're still literally in a loss. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Antonio, let's continue, John. If you
No,
had
I have no more
okay.
questions about this topic right now.
Antonio, what are your current project or plans for the future, professional or personal project that you can explain for us?
Of
course.
Well, we're already working on 13.2. We just launched 13.1, so we're starting to look into what 13.2 will have. I'm not allowed to talk about anything that 13.2 will have, but I can speak about, or I can talk about one little project I released a couple of weeks ago that is based on service sent events. That this is a feature we launched or introduced in 13.1, and unfortunately we didn't create much documentation about it. And once I realized that we had this feature and we didn't have much documentation, I decided to create a demo that is already on GitHub and people can download for free. And I can actually show it to you if you're interested. I think
now.
Yeah, I mean, I can share my screen if we can do that.
We are always interested in see something new about.
Let's do it.
About that.
Okay. So yeah, this is let me move windows around here. Okay. This is a project that, as I mentioned, you can go to our blog, and I wrote the blog post, as I said, I think it was like 10 days ago or something like that. And I created this demo specifically for the this very feature, server sent events. What it does, in case you're not familiar with server-side events, it's like a one-directional message that has been sent from the server. So a client, it can be a website, it could be a FileMonkey application, it could be anything, because it's a standard protocol. What you do is you subscribe to a specific topic, saying you tell the server, I want to know that every time there's a change on sales, send me the new data straight away. And then the server is in charge of sending to each client connected the information. People tend to misunderstand server sent events with WebSockets. WebSockets is a different technology. WebSockets is even though fundamentally is or conceptually similar, but WebSockets are bilateral. So the client can send data through the same tunnel, and the server can send data through the same tunnel. Server-side events are only data sent from the server to the client. So this demo, where server-side events are very, very, very easy to implement. Here, I integrated them in Web Broker, and you have here all the code that is very, very basic. So we're talking about 160 lines of code, and the event to send the events is just one. It's very, very simple to implement. It's literally when you get a request from a client saying, I want information or I want to subscribe to this data, then you just create a loop and then you have a stream there and you start injecting data. In my case, I chose to send JSON data, which is quite a standard. And then you get an event, and you send an event name saying this is the event of Heartbeat or this is the event of Dashboard. So depending on what the customer or the client, is subscribed to, you send the data and that's it. Very simple to implement, but very cool because the demo I created, you can just execute it straight away. It has no configuration whatsoever. You don't need to do anything. The demo comes with two projects. One is a server-side, the web broker application, and another one is a FireMonkey application that we will see in a second. So if we start the server, now we can come to your browser of choice, and you can access localhost 8080. And this shows this little web page that is also sent by. But here we can start seeing things already. We can see the event counters. For example, the heartbeat. We can see that every 1 second I'm requesting heartbeat. Heartbeat is like saying, I'm still here, I'm still here. The server sending that message saying we're still connected, we're still connected. And then we have every 3 seconds, we get this dashboard update, which is fake data about active users and sales, but of course this could be pulled from a database or whatever. And we also have a start job, which is I send a job to the backend saying, hey, do this, but I want to keep track of in which state you are. I want to know the percentage of the job that you are working on. So if we click a start job, the server is started to send a bunch of data, a bunch of events saying I'm on percentage 35, and also with a little description. All this information, of course, is all fake data, but it could be a process that you need to execute. But yeah, this is web-based, but just to prove that this is a standard technology, so we didn't invent server sent events. This is a standard technology used in a bunch of different applications. But you can use exactly the same technology in a FireMonkey or VCL application. If we execute the FireMonkey application, I tried to replicate kind of the same design. So we have the heartbeat in milliseconds we want to request, 3,000 milliseconds for the dashboard data. We also have the start job, blah, blah, blah. In this case, we connect to the backend, same URL, 8080. We click connect. And as we can see, the data between active users, sales, it's all the same data. So it's been sent to two different clients from two different technologies. One is web-based, the other one is FireMonkey. And we even have the progress bar. If I click a start job here, we're going to see how the web as well is showing the progress. So we're getting the same data from both applications and processed in a different way because there are different technologies, but fundamentally that the technology used for sending the events is the same. So yeah, this is quite a cool little project. Because as I said, it's not massive one, fairly easy to follow along. The FMX one is literally just one form with, this is not very good practice to put all the business logic within the form, but I wanted to keep it simple and easy to follow. And most of this code is literally for the UI, because I went a bit extra. And if, for example, I stop the server, then the status changes and says reconnecting, and if I activate it again, it reconnects automatically, blah blah blah. So most of the stuff is more UI related than anything else. So yeah, I don't want to make a whole webinar about this. I just wanted to show the demo.
Yes,
if you're interested, as I said, just search in server-side event, server-sent event in our blog, and you will find the blog post I wrote. Just a little demo, one of my latest projects in Embacadero.
That's quite nice. It
Very
only
cool.
shows how far we can go with Delphi. We can build for any platform, for
Exactly.
any kind of application, right? So that will
Absolutely.
be easier for to last longer than us even.
100%. That's the thing. That's why I'm so glad that we introduced WebStencils, because also it's getting better and better on each release, and it's really helping me to show that it's not difficult at all to create websites with Delphi. And also, if I want to give a tip that people that haven't used WebStencils yet, something I use because I speak about WebStencils a lot with customers. A piece of advice I usually tell them, because it's quite common to find people saying, okay, I have this VCL application that I want to migrate to the web. I want to offer this ERP, CMS, whatever, to my customers through a web-based solution. And I tend to recommend don't do that, because you have your source code that has been tested and proven for many years, and you're literally asking for a full rewrite. That's not how I would approach it personally. What I tend to recommend them is saying, identify which areas of your application would benefit from a web-based solution. I commonly use the example, imagine that you have a driver or a delivery guy, and you want to, for example, take a picture of the parcel before at the moment you're delivering it to a customer, and you want to take a picture. That would be a great extra feature that you could do for ERP, but not directly on the VCL application. It will be a web-based solution the driver would connect to using WebStencils, connecting to the same backend, and then taking that picture and sending it back to the server. Or maybe if a salesperson needs to have access to products or to stocks or whatever, you can create a small website for accessing those very specific features that your software is lacking from, and they really benefit from a web-based solution. That doesn't mean that you cannot carry on extending the web solution and migrating some parts of the ERP, if that makes sense, or the CMS or whatever software you're developing. But I try to recommend don't go full rewrite from day one. Try to identify, carry on with VCL. That's very strong and proven, and it works. So try to extend the functionality of your application through new features, not just I want this to be web-based because I want it. To me, that's not the reason.
Antonio,
it's closed for modifications, open to expansions, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of solid principles.
Yeah.
Antonio, it's something that I see a lot is when a client approaches me, I want this kind of application, but I want to put it on the web. I say, okay, let's see what kind of application you really need and why do you need to put it in the web? Because I have this sense of everything now is going to be on the web, and people don't realize that the web is not always the best solution for everything today.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. The thing is, we have there is this saying in English saying the grass is always greener on the and we all on the neighbor. So that's something. usually people that say I want this on the web, they don't have much experience developing for web. It's just that they want the result, but then don't know the problems that developing for web also bring on the table, because they haven't had them, because they have been always working with desktop applications and they don't know all the problems and implications that bring exposing a website, and all the headaches that imply dealing with a state, dealing with authentication, dealing with security. It's a bunch of different issues that you didn't have before, and now you have to look into. So I understand the convenience. I understand that people want the web for deployment purposes, for simplicity deployment purposes, or for different reasons. But it's important to understand what the web means, and security is paramount. And when you have a VTL application within an organization, if it works, I think it's a very bad choice to migrate that to the web just for the sake of I want it web-based, without a real reason behind it. As the example I said before, we want to do this specific task that we cannot do with VCL. We need web to do this. Fine. Do a specific website for that feature and connect it to the same backend and do so. And you can even improve your main application to show some of that data that was pulled from the web, and then you can see the status on your main application. You have a bunch of different ways of making that let's say to implement that feature without doing a full rewrite. But for me, web has to be meaningful. It has to, mostly if you have a 20 plus years old application that has been going on, the amount of bugs you're going to introduce in a full rewrite going to the web, all the hours you've been debugging and polishing that main application, it's invaluable when it comes to if it's not bringing anything else than I wanted web.
Antonio, since we spoke about security, we have a challenge here in the Union European. We have the SBOM coming right now. This year is going to be very, very busy about that. What do you feel? How do you see the companies are adapting, are getting solutions for that? Embacadero is also engaging in this problem?
Yes. The whole, SBOM is just one of all the new regulatory new European things we're dealing with. But SBOM seems to be the one that resonates the most, because it's going to be theoretically implemented for every software in the that is sold in the EU. At the moment, SBOM is a very difficult report to create automatically, because pretty much what you need to do is you need to specify all your dependencies and the dependencies of the dependencies, and which version they are, if they have vulnerabilities. It's quite tricky to do it right. We partnered with a company called Scanner from Embacadero. So Embacadero partnered with Scanner, and they have a service that you can generate an SBOM from your application. I've seen it in action, and it looks very promising. And actually, we had a promo, I think a few months ago, that you could get for free a scan of your application to generate an SBOM. I'm starting to see as well some community-driven alternatives to generate the SBOM document. It's something we're definitely looking into. I'm seeing both sides of the coin. I'm seeing companies already very, very worried about this. Usually the big companies. And on the other side of the coin, we have the small companies that they don't give a damn yet.
Don't even know what it is.
Don't even know what it is. And when you mention them, saying "S what are you talking about?" So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's by the end of this year, there's some part of the regulation that will be put in place, and then next year is when it's going to be
fully implemented.
So at the moment, this is still early days. It's something as I said, we partnered already with a company that would provide that solution. It's something we're also looking into implementing ourselves. But it's very tricky to do it right, because as I said, the Delphi ecosystem has a lot of peculiarities compared with other ecosystems, and it's tricky to find the dependencies of a third-party component. But yeah, it's something that we definitely need to provide a solution for through our own product, or through a partnership, or through community, or whatever. But yeah, something we're very aware. As I speak about SBOM and Sarah, because the health industry have other regulatory thing as well going on. It's Europe. They love their bureaucracy, you know.
Yeah.
You
can't live without bureaucrats.
You said right. I talked with some small companies that I know here in Portugal, and the most of companies that I talked about this subject, they didn't know about anything about this SBOM. So let's see what will happen about this subject.
I think there's also, of course, I'm not going to say it's our job as a software company to tell all our customers, even though we're trying. But I think this is also something that the European government and local governments should be working on, is to notify all the companies saying, hey, we're introducing this now. You should start looking into it. You cannot create a new law and not notify affected people by that law. So I think there's also, I'm not going to say that it's going to be delayed, because I don't know. But at the moment, I would say Europe and all the 27 countries in the EU are not doing a great job about promoting this and notifying all the affected people, or maybe put it in the media, have an agreement with the news TV shows, or I don't know, let people know that this is going to be mandatory, and because it's going to affect every single piece of software. It's not like this very specific thing that's going to affect one small industry. It's every single piece of software that has been sold in the EU. It needs to have an SBOM. So quite a big deal. But as I said, I'm not seeing it anywhere when it comes to newspapers, news, or anywhere. So no, I'm not surprised that the small companies don't even know. Once you don't have a compliance department that is in charge of looking into these kind of things, I understand that a company of 4 or 5 people, where most of them are developers, of course they're not going to know about this SBOM.
Yeah. Antonio, this podcast is not only for experienced developers, but for the beginnings too. And we are talking almost 1 hour or more, and we are finished our talking. And I would like to ask you, what would you say to someone who is just starting out in the programming, or wants to begin?
I think we're getting to state that's a tricky question. But what I would tell them is, don't learn one language specifically. I think we're heading to a point in time where understanding programming as a general term is going to be more valuable than knowing the syntax of a specific language by heart. That is starting to become more and more irrelevant, but understanding your data structures, understanding how algorithms work, understanding how object-oriented programming works at a fundamental level. That's the skills that I think are going to be the most important in the future. Also patterns in software development, what MVC is, what MVVM is. Understanding all those things from a conceptual and fundamental way, I think is going to be the key skill that's going to be important in the future. So if you're a junior developer, of course, use Delphi, please. But at the same time, try to understand all these topics, all these checkpoints I'm talking about, because that's what the company is going to value the most. Because that's what's going to make a difference in the future. If AI stays, and I do believe that it will, what seniors are doing at the moment is reviewing code and understanding patterns and understanding different ways of programming, but the code is not as relevant anymore. So I cannot predict the future, but that's what I recommend them. Don't focus on one language specifically. Learn how to program, but from that, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And study a lot.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, 100%. And you have to be as good as telling AI, no, you're wrong. That's not how this specific structure should be done. You should be doing it this other way. Just to finish with this, I hate the term vibe coding. I do hate that concept, saying, yes,
we are on the same page.
It's just
I don't think that even exists.
That's the perfect recipe for technical debt. Yeah, you have the impression that you're getting somewhere very quickly and you're getting the product very quickly, but that's going to be impossible to maintain in the future because no one knows what's going on with that code. So when I use AI, I tend to spend, I'm not going to say hours, but sometimes I have, about what I want to do and how I want to architect that specific solution. And I spend hours on the plan. Once I have the plan very, very clear, then that gives AI like guardrails to don't go in a different path and some exotic library I didn't ask AI to use or whatever. So yeah, that's my piece of advice. Okay,
thank you. Antonio, unfortunately, we will finished our podcast. Your talking, it was very amazing. But we would like to share with us a final message for our Portuguese community and for all the people that saw our podcast. Can you share a final message for us?
Don't stay in all versions of Delphi. Please update yourself. I know that Delphi 7 was cool, but that's see, that's a 20+ years old piece of software. You're really missing out a lot. I mean, I understand in your case, Joao, that probably you have some projects in Delphi 7, but
I have some clients still using
it.
Yes,
I understand that, but if you carry on a daily basis using Delphi 7, please try to, because you're missing out a bunch of very, very cool new features. And every time someone tells you that Delphi is legacy, just send them the link of our website and show them how amazing our IDE is at the moment, how modern it looks, and and all the cool features that we've been introducing in the last couple of decades, if you're still using Delphi 7. So yeah, that would be, and keep learning. You need to learn every day. If you're not, that's also a problem. If you stick with Delphi 7, you're missing out what technology is nowadays. You're still coding how we used to code 20 years ago, and that's changed quite a lot. So keep learning, keep breaking things. I think that's very important, because there is no better way to learn that to break things. And stay curious.
Antonio, tell us your social media, your contact, how we can find you.
Well, you can find me. I'm not a very social media kind of person.
Really?
I used to use Twitter. I still refuse to call it X. But I have LinkedIn. That's usually the one I get in there at least once a week, something like that. You can find me on my email. I'm more than happy to share my email, which is my name, antonio.zapater@embacadero.com. So it's very easy to remember. More than happy for you to send me an email. I try to reply every single one of them. And usually after an event or podcast or whatever, it tends to get quite busy. So I do apologize if it takes some time, but I do reply every email. And yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter /X. If you, I think it's @Antonio Zapater altogether, my username. But yeah, that's, and on LinkedIn, just type my name and I will pop up. I have a very unusual last name, so it's very easy to find me.
Okay, Antonio. Thank you so much. This podcast was amazing. João, thank you for your company again.
Always,
my friend.
Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to meet people so interesting with so much knowledge like Antonio. And like I said, always people listen to him, learn with him, and go develop something new in Delphi, because that is what we love to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will talk to you em português now. Espero que todos tenham gostado desse programa. Não esqueçam de deixar o seu like, não deixa de subscrever o nosso canal, compartilhe esse papo, acho que foi bem interessante.
Conhecimento.
Exatamente. Vamos ficando por aqui. Antonio, thank you. Let's see.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
As opiniões e declarações feitas pelos entrevistados do Papo Dev com Portinho são de exclusiva responsabilidade deles e não refletem necessariamente a posição dos apresentadores, da produção ou do canal. O conteúdo aqui exibido tem caráter informativo e opinativo, não estando vinculado a qualquer compromisso com a veracidade ou exatidão das falas dos participantes. Caso você se sinta ofendido ou tenha qualquer dúvida sobre as declarações feitas neste vídeo, por favor, entre em contacto connosco para esclarecimentos. Estamos abertos a avaliar e, se necessário, editar o conteúdo para garantir a precisão e o respeito a todos.